Hello and welcome to today's webinar where we will be talking about how to get started with StateRAMP from Snapshot through authorization. We are recording today's webinar and will make that recording available post the event. Also, you may have noticed that your microphones are muted. That's because of the number of participants that we have today with us. We will invite you though and encourage you to type in any questions that you may have in the chat, and our team will be working to respond to those as we go. Please do put your name and email there when you're posting your question in case we need to follow up with you with more information. Today, I'm joined by some of my StateRAMP team members, Noah Brown and Jordan Hickam. My role here, I have the privilege and pleasure of serving as Executive Director for StateRAMP and have been along for the ride since 2020 when the steering committee first came together. My background is in state and local government, and so it is truly just a joy and honor to be able to serve StateRAMP and our members and help work toward our mission to improve cybersecurity across the country. Noah and Jordan, welcome you today and invite you to introduce.
Thank you, Leah. My name is Noah Brown. I'm the StateRAMP PMO Director, so I oversee the technical function of the security review and ConMon process, as well as serve as an advisor to the Standards and Technical Committee for our baselines and requirements. My background, I come from the Department of Defense, working in compliance and cybersecurity.
Thank you.
Yes, and hello everyone. My name is Jordan Hickam, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Membership Engagement Manager for StateRAMP. My team is comprised of 14 member specialists who are always ready to assist with questions on StateRAMP as a program and details on how the process works from beginning to end. You can expect first-class communication and have a dedicated point of contact throughout the verification journey. So please know that we always welcome the opportunity to set up a time to chat whenever you have questions or just desire a bit more information. And one thing that we always hear first is, how do we get started? The simple solution is to reach out to my team and we will gladly coordinate time to accommodate your needs. If you have direct questions, you can always email me at jordan@stateramp.org. However, if you have general questions, you can contact info@stateramp.org. Really appreciate you having me here.
Awesome. Well, we're excited. We're going to talk a little bit about what is StateRAMP, how does it work, and how do you really begin this journey? So StateRAMP is a nonprofit. We're a 501c6 membership organization that launched in 2021, and we really are driving best practices. Our mission is to drive best practices and promote those, as well as a standardized method of verifying cloud security for governments at all levels, at state, local government, educational institutions. And so our members include public sector and private sector leaders who really come together to recognize common standards and to develop those so that we can rely on that common method of verifying and begin that really critical journey of continuous improvement and continuous monitoring that is critical to the success of having a solid cybersecurity program. We're often asked what StateRAMP stands for. And so the RAMP actually does have meaning. It is a state risk authorization management program, and we're modeled in part after the federal program called FedRAMP that was founded in 2011 to serve the federal government. One of the things that we learned as we were on the journey of developing StateRAMP and working with the steering committee is that the FedRAMP program really is designed to serve the federal government, meaning in order to become FedRAMP ready or FedRAMP authorized or receive that certification, those providers must be doing business with the federal government and have a minimum contract in place. Also, what we learned during that journey of 2020 with the steering committee is that many states and local governments were wanting to leverage what that FedRAMP certification means. Right? It means that you've got a product that has gone through the verification process to say, yes, they do meet with independent verification and validation. They do meet the minimum security requirements that the federal government had in place or has in place. But while that certification or verification is visible, the information that the federal government is collecting for continuous monitoring and reporting is not made available to states and local governments. That is something that is contained within the federal government because it's serving the federal government. That left states and local governments sort of on their own to figure out, well, how do we create a risk authorization management program that really helps encourage independent validation and verification of cyber postures and ongoing communication. So rather than having every state and local government create their own program, StateRAMP leaders from dozens of states and communities across the country came together to say, what if we did this together? And that is exactly what StateRAMP is designed to be, is a shared service risk authorization management program for our participating government so that they can leverage what that risk authorization means and benefit from the continuous communication and continuous improvement that is just inherent to the program. By doing that, what it means for providers is providers can go to one centralized place to verify their security posture, and in one centralized place and to one centralized team that's led by Noah Brown, they're able to report their progress and continuous monitoring activities. So as we're driving toward this standardization in terms of baseline requirements and process, we're also driving toward standardized approaches, consistency, and solicitations. Our goal for the provider community as well as the government members would be to have fewer one-off procurements or less friction in contracting and faster solicitation processes because we're able to verify that security up front and then allow providers to get to work faster for government, bringing innovation faster to government. So this is a little bit of the why. Now let's talk a little bit about who and what. Our StateRAMP members, we can't do it alone. And I'll let Jordan speak a little bit to this.
That's right. Yeah, we can't do it alone, which is why we invite all governments and service providers to join us in our mission. Cybersecurity, as we know, affects everyone, so it's imperative to protect everyone involved. So for governments, individual memberships come at no cost. However, for providers, service providers, and 3PAOs, there's an annual cost of $500 to stay engaged. You can find the membership application at stateramp.org under the Government and Service Providers tab, or you could reach out to myself or my team, and we'd be more than happy to get you started.
That's right. And we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits to membership and what that looks like later. One of the benefits of membership, though, is the ability to have a voice in the process. And so we do have several committees and groups here that you can see that really begin with our board and steering committee, really at that strategic level, providing guidance day to day and looking at what's next and where the needs lie for our members and how we serve best. We have a standards and technical committee, and that committee has responsibility for annual review of our policies, baseline requirements for security and processes. One of the big items this year that that standards and technical committee is undertaking is incorporating NIST 853 Rev 5 requirements into our framework. And what you'll see right now is we're currently based on NIST 853 Rev 4, but we are making that shift this year, so stay tuned there. Our StateRAMP Approvals Committee is a committee that is comprised of 5 government representatives, and that's a committee that has responsibility for reviewing packages that are going for authorization. And Noah's going to explain that process, but that approvals committee is really critical to the success and part of what allows us to open the door to any provider who has interest in coming through this process or becoming a part of StateRAMP. There is no prerequisite or requirement that a provider have a product in use in a government or have contracts with government. What we're trying to do is really grow that pool of qualified security and qualified providers who are able to serve. So the approvals committee plays a really critical role in that process and growing the number of providers who reach authorization for their products. We have a StateRAMP Appeals Committee. This is a group of individuals who are subject matter experts, as well as government leaders who serve as really an adjudication board. So if there's ever a disagreement along the way, they're the ones to sort it out. Our nominating committee has responsibility every year for evaluating the hundreds practically of applications that come in from members who want to participate on one of these committees. And so they really work to make sure that we're following best practices for governance and also help sort through all of those applications to make recommendations for committee participation. We have launched a Provider Leadership Council. This is a new council for 2023 that our nominating committee worked with our board to develop. And any provider member may designate one person to serve on the Provider Leadership Council. We're really excited for this group who can serve as a sounding board, who can provide input, and it's an ideal role for those individuals in your organization who interact, in person or virtually, who interact directly with their government customers. We will be launching later in 2023 a 3PAO or third-party assessing organization advisory council, who will also serve as a great sounding board and be able to give technical expertise and advice as we go. So that's how our organization is formed, and you can find all of this as well at stateramp.org. So just taking a look at who our members are and what that looks like. Jordan.
Yeah, so with 150 plus member organizations and 300 plus government individual members, we've witnessed significant momentum and continue to see membership throughout the nation. What we are most proud of is that more and more providers are seeing the value of StateRAMP in the program and are placing more of an emphasis on improving their cybersecurity, which is what StateRAMP's all about. And this also plays into the governmental piece as well. And with our Verify Once, Serve Many approach, we serve as one of the one-stop shops and avoid having you jump through hoops for each state's verification process. And as you can see, we have significant government participation at this point in comparison to when we started the program. And we have more states that we're going to announce in local governments as the year moves on, later on in the spring. But we've seen tremendous momentum, and we hope to continue seeing that as well.
Absolutely. And for those who are tracking, who are the participating governments, right? So we've got individual government members, and then we have participating governments who are working with StateRAMP at the enterprise or agency level. And that's what you see on this map are the number of organizations who have announced they are participating with government. I can tell you we've got many more who have just not yet announced, and they're on the cusp of doing so. So you can follow this, this growth and momentum on our website. If you go to stateramp.org, there's a participating governments option, and click on that. We've got the link here as well so that you can see who's participating and follow that growth.
Yep, and one extra thing there, Leah.
Yeah.
If you're not on our newsletter, I would highly suggest that, because that's where a lot of the information is blasted out. So we want to keep you all in the know. Absolutely.
One of the things that is just so rewarding about being a part of StateRAMP is seeing so many different individuals, organizations, and our strategic partners come together to solve this question of how do we validate cybersecurity for our suppliers of government. How do we do this together? How do we do this in a meaningful way and not recreate the wheel, right? But bring everyone together through this process. And so we've been really fortunate to work with, you can see some of the strategic partners that we work with from NASPO and NASCIO, who were right there from the beginning, to all of the other organizations that we've grown to work with through the years. And just really appreciate and want to take a moment to thank them, as well as all of our board and committee members. I think we've got 60 or maybe more now committee members who dedicate a lot of time to StateRAMP on top of their full-time jobs serving government or their provider organizations. So we just really appreciate the time that goes into all of this work. One of the most exciting developments this year so far has been the release of the updated procurement guide from the Center for Digital Government. Our StateRAMP team had the opportunity to serve on the working group that helped lead to or helped inform this update. So if you've not seen this, highly encourage you to check it out. We'll have links on our website as well. This is especially a fantastic, fantastic tool for any government leader out there who's thinking about updating policies or terms and conditions, solicitations, saying, how do I do this, right? The Center for Digital Government has this best practices guide for procurement of cloud solutions. One of the things that you'll see that's new to the guide is the mention of StateRAMP. So they updated the guide to incorporate risk authorization management programs into, including StateRAMP, into procurement language and policies. One note, if you are with a government agency or working for a state out there, our team at StateRAMP, we also have a government engagement team who is available at any time to kind of walk through this guide, walk through the best practices StateRAMP has built, kind of building off, leveraging this guide to help governments implement StateRAMP as well. So please reach out to me, Leah, at stateramp.org, or we've got some other information later. But this is a very exciting development. So take a look. It's a great read, or you can read some of the articles about it as well. So that's a little bit of the who and the why I think StateRAMP exists, but we want to talk about what does it mean to work with StateRAMP? What do our security requirements look like? Where can you find them? And what is that process? And I really say a process. We're excited because we've been working on quite a bit of development since 2022 or in 2022 that we're launching now that really help a provider begin with StateRAMP and get started, and to have an entry point into being able to mature that cyber posture over time. So I'm going to hand it over to Noah to maybe walk us through what this looks like and the requirements.
Thank you, Leah. So StateRAMP baselines, these are the framework upon which all of our program is built. So we have a baseline minimum standard, the criteria for StateRAMP security snapshot, and then the process for StateRAMP verification. So all of this is out there on the stateramp.org templates and resources page. Everything that you could possibly need to get through the process, provider templates, 3PAO templates, they are all out there on the page. The baseline requirements are built on NIST 853 Rev 4. Like Leah said, we are working to move that to Rev 5. That's before the Standards and Technical Committee today. I know a question that I get a lot from providers when they ask about the Rev 5 update. There will be an onboarding period for providers who are currently in the midst of going through the audit or working towards engaging with the 3PAO. There will be an onboarding period for providers to move to Rev 5 once that is released. And then we'll also be looking to map to some additional frameworks, to CGIS, MARSI, some of the other regulatory frameworks that are out there, and trying to build an easier process or a bridge to other programs for providers that are coming through this process. So the steps for StateRAMP security progression, out of the gate, step one, this is a new process that we have here at StateRAMP, is the security snapshot program. So the idea behind this and kind of where this was born from was providers coming through attempting StateRAMP ready or StateRAMP authorized. The question is always, where do I start? I don't know how I need to engage the process or even where I'm at in security. And the idea behind this was to provide a way for a provider to come in and receive a gap analysis as well as a score of where they're at in relation to the StateRAMP minimum mandates. It's also fantastic because it provides a glimpse for state procurement into the current security state of that provider, whether they're looking to partner with them, award them a contract. It allows the provider to be able to show the state that they have a certain level of security information in place that will indicate success moving towards StateRAMP ready. So the Progressing Security Snapshot program, so this is the next step beyond our initial security snapshot. So the idea is, trust but verify, and we also want to help the providers improve what they're doing. We want them to increase their score and continue to work towards becoming StateRAMP ready and eventually StateRAMP authorized. So the idea behind this program is we want to be able to show state government and the service provider the benefit of working with the PMO. So we can allow the state to understand, state, local, as well as education, how they're progressing in that process. And then we also at the PMO, we see a lot of system security packages come through. We review a lot of controls. We want to be able to meet with those providers on a monthly basis and guide them in the right direction and help them improve that score and help get them to where they need to be. So that's where the progressive snapshot kind of program has come about, is to allow us to assist providers in improving their cyber maturity. So it includes a gap assessment and score. It's independent verification and validation by us, the StateRAMP PMO. We include a list of artifacts that we require to be uploaded that we can then review. It's the critical controls, or those controls that are required as part of the StateRAMP minimum mandates. We're able to deliver that within 3 weeks once we get that documentation back from the provider. So the idea behind it is we get the call scheduled with you, we'll request the artifacts and documentation, and we try to, as quickly as we can, get the initial review done so we can work with you if there's some items that we need follow up on to ensure your score is accurate. And the provider is able to share that score with any government customers or any customers they would like. We at the PMO do not provide that score letter out to anyone. That is yours as the service provider to do so. The fee is $1,500. There's reduced fees for small business. And then you can also, again, request that snapshot at stateramp.org, and we at the PMO would be happy to work with you. The progressing program, so this allows quarterly snapshot updates. So once a quarter, especially if you are looking to bid on a solicitation, you're able to provide that initial score and then show quarterly your progress. It also includes monthly consultative calls with either myself or someone on my team to help you on a monthly basis improve your score and implement those critical controls, those things that you can do that are going to really increase the maturity of your product and your cybersecurity status. You may provision access for government clients to view those snapshots and progressing notes. So if you're working with a client who is interested in where you're at, they want to see you making improvement. They want to know that over the course of a year, 18 months, however long you have, they want to see that you're improving. They want to see that your score is going up because you're ultimately getting closer and closer to StateRAMP ready. So this is built on a $1,000 a monthly subscription. Again, reduced fees for small businesses, and this includes both the quarterly snapshots as well as the consultative calls with us, the team, to help you improve your security and answer questions you may have about the process.
Yes, and one of the things that, as you were talking, I was thinking, you don't need to have a contract with the government to be able to participate in the StateRAMP program or the Snapshot program and to benefit from these monthly calls. If you have a product and you're interested in continuing to improve that posture or close out those gaps so that you can become ready for that ready audit, then this is a great program, I think, really for any provider who's interested in that journey.
I think it's really helpful for providers. It's kind of your first kind of steps wading into the pool. It allows us to kind of see where you're at, give you a gap analysis of where you are in relation to ready, and then we can work with you to help you improve your score and to help you ultimately be successful when you go for a state.
Absolutely. And it's really selfishly exciting because we can start understanding where are some of the common gaps that occur out there. So as an organization with StateRAMP, we can continue to develop resources to help with those gaps or needs. And so this is part of the mission of StateRAMP as well. And I'm sure during that process, as you're working through this, one of those steps will be starting to identify what impact level might be important for that provider to take a look at.
Absolutely. So the StateRAMP impact levels, kind of a brief overview. And again, we at the PMO, if you have questions about this, we're more than happy to hop on a call and work with you on getting an understanding of where you are. So we have the low baseline. So the low baseline includes systems that are either they're not processing critical data or they have some form of integration with a system that has higher impact level, usually some forms of metadata, think ticketing systems. And then next up from that, we have the moderate StateRAMP control baseline. So that is the vast majority of the providers that come through. So these are systems that are processing PII, protected information, systems that have some form of data that is critical to government. And then we also have the high baseline. So these are systems that are processing information that is related to national security information that is protected, and usually at the federal level is where you'll see systems that are complying with a high control baseline. So the verified security statuses, so we have StateRAMP ready. That means you've met the minimum mandatory requirements. And again, Snapshot gives you a glimpse of that ahead of time prior to going through that full audit. That requires a completed 3PAO readiness assessment report, or RAR. We have the authorized process. This is, or the authorized status. That is where you've completed a full StateRAMP security assessment report, or SAR, with the 3PAO. It means you've met all the control requirements by impact level. It does require a sponsor or the approvals committee. So with that, I'd just like to say you don't have to have a sponsor to be able to move through the process. If you are looking to engage a sponsor and you're having difficulty finding one, once you get through your process with us at the StateRAMP PMO, we're more than happy to submit your package to the approvals committee. And like Leah was saying earlier, that's a membership of 5 leaders in security in government, and they're able to award you with an authorized status if all of the requirements are met.
Maybe you could speak a little bit, because sometimes I know our government members or even providers who are going to talk to one of their government clients to see if they're interested in becoming a sponsor. That's a question we hear. Can you maybe speak a little bit to what is involved if you're a government sponsor?
Sure. So a government sponsor, we really try to take the majority of the work at the PMO level off the sponsor going through this process. So we at the PMO conduct our review. We complete a summary that is provided to that sponsor. So part of that, we onboard the sponsor with the PMO, show them the information, show them where this stuff is accessed, as well as how to access it, and our summary of the audit. At that point, the authorizing official has the ability to dig as much or as little as they choose into that system's security package, as well as the continuous monitoring. And then on a monthly basis, when we go through and we pull continuous monitoring from the service provider, we're reviewing it, we are updating it, we're adding a summary, and then that is going to the authorizing official as well. So we try to take on as much of that initial assessment and authorization, as well as the continuous monitoring piece, off of the sponsor, and we really want to give them the highlights of what's going on with that system, at which point the authorizing official or sponsor is the one who has the ability to, they really take the responsibility for the system. They're the ones who are awarding an authorized status.
I love what you're saying there too. If you think about that all of the different states and local governments out there who want to be able to do this review, to be able to rely on the program management office to do that independent verification and validation is that is a heavy lift and such a benefit, I think, to our participating governments to be able to kind of contract that out in a way, to leverage this centralized program management office to be able to do that, so that then our participating government members are able to really kind of shift their workload from doing that validation and verification to true risk management. And part of that happens through this communication and visibility. And I think that's really exciting when we think about where we need to go as just kind of culturally in terms of how we manage cybersecurity. So I think I just wanted to kind of focus in on that centralized program management office. The work they're doing in helping relieve that burden for governments is an important one. But then the benefit to providers who, imagine if you had to report all this to every single government customer that you had, to be able to do it in one centralized place and with a team who's dedicated to do this, right? And so our hope is that the program management office is really, and I know they are, our goal is to be customer service oriented so that we can help the providers as well as be a great resource to our government members. So it's kind of that bridge.
Absolutely. And it's great too, because we see every package that comes through the StateRAMP program, we at the PMO have to lay eyes on it and review it and ensure that it's meeting requirements. So we have a unique perspective in being able to understand at the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS stack for anything that's leveraged, what's being done. And we really view ourselves as an extension of that sponsor's team to help them get through this process.
Absolutely. And I think for our government members, it means and for providers, It's apples to apples. There's consistency in the review of every application so that you can have confidence in that. This is part of the process, is continuous monitoring. So once you achieve, like I was just thinking as you were talking, you start with Snapshot, you see where you are, you make some progress. Eventually you're ready for that first audit. You don't have to, we should say, you don't have to start at Snapshot. If you're ready for Authorized, go there. But this is that progressing journey that you can take as Snapshot. Then you can have that initial audit. The readiness assessment review is looking at those most minimum controls from NIST 853. So kind of the most critical minimum controls, become StateRAMP ready, and then continue progressing to StateRAMP authorized. But once you meet ready or authorized, which are our verified statuses, sometimes you'll hear us call them our milestone statuses. That's an important milestone, but it doesn't stop there, right? Because once you achieve ready and authorized, we have continuous monitoring. So I'll let you speak to this. Yeah.
So once you receive ready or authorized, we'll schedule a call with you, usually within 30 days after that status is awarded, and we'll bring you through your ConMon or continuous monitoring intake. So the expectations from that is that there's monthly vulnerability reporting from the provider that's coming to the PMO, and there is a monthly plan of actions and milestones update from the provider to the PMO. We want to be able to show that you are closing vulnerabilities, that you are moving down the path and you're maintaining security, and it's not just a point in time process. We want to know on a monthly basis that these things are being closed out. Annually, you'll redo your audit and that'll be submitted to the PMO. And then there is monthly reporting from the PMO to the state. So that's kind of one of the big offerings we have. One of the benefits to this program is we're able to review continuous monitoring that's being done by these service providers and really give insight to state, local, and higher ed, how these things are being validated and how things are being closed out and remediated on a monthly basis. It's a missing part of a lot of audits and a lot of different programs where you have a point in time audit and then for a year, 2 years, 3 years, there's nothing else done. There's no insight being gained. In our case, we actually are monthly verifying that these things are being closed out, remediated, patched, or if not, there is some justification as to why. And that information is made available to our state sponsors that are working with these service providers to keep them informed, because ultimately, if there are vulnerabilities or issues, concerns, findings that are not being remediated, they need to be aware of that information. And that's one of the biggest things in this program that gives a lowering of risk to government, is being able to show them that these things are actually being closed out and it's not just hidden from them as far as the actual risk of the program.
Definitely. And you do not have to be the sponsor of a product to be able to have access to this continuous monitoring reporting. Providers have the ability to provision access to any of the governments that they're working with or choose to provision access to, so that those governments can have visibility as they go as well.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things we do at the PMO as well, is if you are a government entity and you would like to see continuous monitoring, if there are providers that you do business with today that you are interested in seeing their current state, we can facilitate getting that access granted from the service provider, as well as onboard you and walk you through what you're looking at, explain how these things are trends and vulnerabilities and findings are tracked, so you understand what's happening with that provider on a monthly basis.
Oh, certainly. And, when you kind of zoom out and think about the potential here as well, we were having a conversation with our approvals committee earlier this week, and there was like a level of excitement about the type of insights over time we're going to be able to glean and share with all of our members in an aggregate form to say, here's what we're learning, right? These are the risks, or these are the things that are most important to be thinking about. And so that's all part of the StateRAMP, what it means to be a part of StateRAMP. Is as we're working toward that future state of risk knowledge. This is a common question, Noah. And Jordan, I know you hear this one. I hear this one too from all of our different members and stakeholders. How does StateRAMP compare to FedRAMP?
So I think one of the big differences between the two is our focus really is state and local government and education. So very similar control requirements, very similar monitoring. We utilize third-party assessors and we have the varying impact levels. I think one of the biggest differences is our goal is making that information available to state and local government. We have a centralized PMO that all the security packages, whether they have an agency sponsor, we still do that initial review. So like we were saying, a standardized review for everyone across the board. We really strive to make sure that we're applying the same standard to everyone. We also have a fast track option. So for providers who do have a FedRAMP status, we allow them to come over to StateRAMP. They can use their current federal documentation, and we will review that and then recommend it for approval. We're working on mapping to other compliance frameworks. So ultimately our goal is supporting both government and the service provider community and figuring out better ways for them to mature their cybersecurity and reduce some of the burdens of meeting regulatory compliance frameworks.
I think one of the other big differences that we'll have to add to this is the StateRAMP Security Snapshot program. So this is a program that, as we mentioned, launched in early 2023, but I think it's a huge difference maker when we think about just the needs in the ecosystem and how we can help really all providers be successful in achieving NIST compliance and those best practices. Most importantly, better security outcomes. So I think that's a huge difference is, with FedRAMP, you sort of have to start at the end. You have to start with that FedRAMP ready or authorization. With StateRAMP, we've got that StateRAMP Security Snapshot program that can help a provider get started regardless of what they've done before or kind of where they are in the process.
Absolutely. And I think too that the progressing snapshot program too, just allowing us a way to help those providers raise the watermark for cybersecurity for government.
Yes, on that same call yesterday, someone said this is a waterfall moment, and we certainly hope so. Jordan, for those providers who already have a FedRAMP status, what's that process look like?
Yeah, so we recognize if you have achieved a FedRAMP authorized or ready status, you've done the legwork. You've been through the 3PAO, you've completed that SAR, that security assessment review or the readiness assessment review. And we want you to leverage that work straight into StateRAMP, which is why we came up with the fast track option. So what you would need to do is you bypass that 3PAO, so you become a member, bypass the 3PAO, and then you would submit that security package to our PMO for the review, which we give the timeline about 4 to 6 weeks until you're awarded that StateRAMP status. Obviously, the sponsorship still takes place if you're going for authorized, but this is a great option for those that have already achieved their FedRAMP authorization and been awarded, and an easy access into StateRAMP and becoming verified through the StateRAMP program.
Absolutely. Whatever path you take, right? The standard process or the fast track process, when you're going for verified, this is where you end up. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so our authorized product list, you can find this on stateramp.org. And what this is it recognizes both the progressing and verified statuses. So you'll see at the top there, the verified statuses, those are the organizations and products that have actually made it through and become StateRAMP authorized or ready. And you can see their information, drop down the tab, you'll see the 3PAO they use, their sponsors, so you can get a better sense of that. But if you drop down further below, you'll see the progressing list. And this just recognizes those that have begun the process of StateRAMP, they've engaged the 3PAO, and they intend on achieving that ready or authorized status.
Sounds good. So where to go from here?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, membership is first and foremost. Becoming a member opens the door for providers to begin this journey and for us to work with you in order to get your products verified. And you can do that by going to stateramp.org/register. And if you're a government entity or agency, you can reach out to get@stateramp.org if you have follow-up questions. If you have any questions with regards to how to participate as a government, we'll get that answer to you. And if you are a provider, you can reach out again to myself at jordan@stateramp.org, or you can reach out to info@stateramp.org just to get started, and we can kind of walk you through that journey. And membership is great. It gives you a voice, it gives you an opportunity to have your input into the progression of our program and helping making this as simple as possible. As Leah mentioned, we have the Provider Leadership Council that we rolled out, where you can nominate someone within your organization to represent your company as a member of StateRAMP and to have that voice and vocalize your advocacy toward the program. And we also have a lot of educational and resources, templates and resources, as Noah had mentioned before, but we want to keep you up to date on our progress as well as the cyber posture of the nation as things come up more and more. And that's just at the end of the day, our mission is to improve the nation's cyber posture, and it starts with providers, governments, assessors, and everyone in between. So we really encourage you to join and explore StateRAMP as we continue to grow, and we're here to help you along the way.
Definitely, and we have these links. We will make sure that we publish this webinar and the recording on our website, and get these links to all who participated that just kind of cover some of what we've talked about here. But I hope, certainly the theme is around bringing people together and partnerships. Government doesn't work without the private sector, right? We know that. And so it's really about bringing the public and private sectors together through these partnerships to improve security as we go. So, well, thank you all very much for joining us today. Please reach out. Let us know if you have any questions, and we invite you to become a part of StateRAMP. Have a great day.